All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our planning party. We've got some lovely ladies on today, so feel free to do video and audio for those of you that are on live. Hey, Kiana. I'm just gonna do a real quick, brief intro, and then I'll let you guys go ahead and do your little welcome for today. So for those of you that are watching the replay, make sure that you grab anything that you need for planning. So your calendar, or for those of you live too, but make sure you've got your calendar, a notepad, something to take notes on, that you've got the worksheet. If you plan right in your task management software, that you've got that as well. And remember, just try to be as focused as you can, because when you're trying to actively plan, the more you get distracted, the less planning you're actually going to do. And I want this to be a really effective time for you. And so, yes, let's get started. Obviously, I'm Catherine, and you guys are going to introduce yourself in a moment. But we're going to review last month. We're going to look at our vision areas. We're going to set our priorities for the month, block our commitments, plan out our projects and things that are happening, and have a plan for November when we're done, which we were talking about before I started recording, how we're all a little bit like, really? Planning November? Is this supposed to be happening yet? It's coming so fast. So it is. All right, so this is what I would love for you guys to share. I'll actually post it in the chat for those of you that are on live. And for those of you that can't talk, like Debbie just mentioned, she's got people in her house, so she's just listening in. And for Glennis, so if you guys that don't want to chat, feel free to just do your introduction in the chat and I'll read it. But for those of you that are live, let's just do a quick little introduction. So just say your name, even though we can see it on your stuff, and let us know what your focus is. So if it's just like an overall, just getting a handle on November, for me, that's mine. I just need to be like refocus and reset because October was crazy. And then a biggest planning win or challenge. So I'll since I'm already going, I'll just share mine quick. My biggest planning challenge this month is that I committed to 5 speaking engagements, and that was too many. So I learned that I have a limit and it is below 5. So I still have to figure out exactly what that is, but I did 3 in-person workshops and speaking, like at events. And then I'm doing 2 online trainings, like in addition to everything I do for the quarterly. And it's just a little bit much. So I think 3 is probably my limit. And the other challenge I had with planning is that I was away. I went to a conference for 4 days, and I didn't plan in my timeline when I was planning October, like half a day to just catch up from being away. So that was one of my planning challenges. It's like I planned my month knowing I was away for 4 days, but I didn't necessarily I didn't give myself that half day of catch up that I needed, which then caused me to be a half day behind in everything else. So that is me sharing 2 of my planning challenges with you guys today. So for those of you that are on live that can do audio, let's start with Kate, and then do Christina, and then do Kiana, and then do Susan. And you guys can go ahead and unmute yourself and share your introduction. It's pinned in the chat, but you know what, Susan, you might not see it because I think you only see... There you go. It's back in the chat. So that's what we're sharing today on our introductions. All right, Kate, go for it.
Okay, so I'm Kate. I'm planning kind of similar to Catherine, just like overall getting on track, focusing on personal. This month was interesting. I had a concussion, so I was totally off work for 2 weeks, and I feel like my whole life is currently upside down.
Are you doing better though?
Yes, I was like back at work part-time this week. But it's like so all over the place, but definitely improvements. But yeah, so I'm just kind of like resurfacing, and I guess I'll just plan like as much as I can.
But know that you have to be flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, girl. When I heard that, I don't know what I did. Did I reach out to you on WhatsApp or something? And I asked you about something, and then you told me, and I was like, what? So that's a big deal to be recovering from a concussion.
Yeah, it turns out they are a big deal.
They are. Okay, well, sounds good. We will all keep you in our prayers as you continue to recover. All right, Christina.
All right, I'm Christina, And this month I am planning personal. It was going to be business, but last night my husband actually got a job offer in California. So we found out that we're moving in 2 weeks. So I'm going to be planning that
What?
project. Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big, where do you live right now?
Wisconsin. So the middle
Okay.
of the country.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
All the way over. Yeah.
Wow. In 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
A personal planning party sounds like a pretty good idea to me. And can I just say, I don't know if I've ever heard you talk before. Like, I know you've been on, but I think it's only been on chat calls or Facebook. You have like such a great like, it sounds like you could be on the radio.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Like your voice, I'm like, oh, she's got a radio voice or like
Wow,
a TV
thank
voice
you.
or something.
My next job.
Anyway, she's like, oh, so that's all. Okay, totally random. All right, Kiana, do you want to share your intro?
Hello.
Hey.
I am out of the 9-to-5 world, not all the way by choice, somewhat by choice, but it was making me sick, so whatever. Done with that. So I'm planning my social media presence and my business and just like getting myself together and to do this by myself. So that's what I'm doing.
So your timeline for your business has shortened a lot then.
Yes. I have some options because I already have some businesses that I'm in by myself that I was doing on the side, and I'm just going to ramp those up. The interior design goal still sticks in 2020. The other one, I'm just going to do the books more often.
Yep. All right, girl. Let's hustle this out.
I know, right?
All right, Susan.
I am continuing to plan for my launch in December. So I'm booking my photographer. I am working farther along with the copywriter. So hopefully a lot of that will be confirmed. And then I just have to figure out what the hell I'm going to write for content. I've just been working a lot on the website and, the buttons, and I'm working with Rachel Shilcock on her design school. And I wasn't going to take it because I've been working on the website on my own. And then I said, I'll just jump in. And I've learned so much just in the last few weeks. So I'm kind of going back and kind of tweaking and then I'm continuing on our house renovations because we are moving, but not in 2 weeks. Oh my God. So I'm still in that phase. So I've gotten the third bathroom complete almost. So that's a good thing. So now I just need a countertop and the plumbing put in and we're good to go there. So
Nice.
Continuing to do huge clutter, which is crazy. Just, I don't know where it comes from.
I hear ya. Okay, so two of the ladies that are on don't have audio, so I'm just going to read their intros. So Gleneth, her name is Gleneth. My focus over November planning is to see how much time I have and figure out what projects I might be able to get done. So really do a good time audit. The biggest challenge this month is bringing on new clients all at once, which is a good thing, but then some major technical issues that cost me 3 days. Oh, tech stuff. Sometimes that can be really tough. So Debbie says focuses on business. For this call, biggest planning challenge win was that she worked on Trello systems a lot and got a lot of her biz systems put in, which is so awesome. Woohoo! And challenge last month focus was decorating in the house and got a lot of that done, but still have so many things to do by the end of October. Oh, by the end of October, that's like in 5 days. All right, girl, you can do it. You can do it. All right, so we're going to jump in to the planning portion. So we always start with reflection. So the questions, you guys all have your worksheets with you. So I won't copy the questions out then, but here's some of the questions. What am I grateful for? Some highlights. What did I learn about myself, others, family, major milestones? What did I do to celebrate and record those? What do I need to adjust, stop, start? And then what part of the planning process went well or was challenging? So those things that you just mentioned, those are great things to document in there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys, where's my timer? This is what happens when I'm put all my things away and then remember I actually need my phone. All right, I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes to answer a bunch of those questions. For those watching the replay, I'll pause the recording. And then when we come back, I would love, since we've got so many people live who are able to do audio, I'd love if you guys could each share one of the reflection question answers that kind of stood out for you when we're done that. So let's take a few minutes to reflect. Cue music. Whatever music you like. I'm not going to put it on. Unless you guys want me to. But you guys play your own music. All righty. How are we all doing on reflection questions? Good? Yeah, even just those couple minutes can make such a big difference, eh? All right, so let's do the same order as we did before. Kate, Christina, Kiana. Wow. Kate, Catherine, Christina, Kiana, we're all and then there's Susan, whose name does not start with a C or a K or a Q or something else that makes the same vowel sound. Okay, it's not a vowel sound, phonic sound. Guys, I don't teach how to read. Go, Kate.
The main thing I have as far as what I need to adjust or start is just I have to keep reminding myself to be really gentle with myself right now, like just recovering from this and not assuming the worst and not putting myself down or feeling guilty that I'm not recovering as fast as I think I should or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. Just like stick it on sticky notes all over your house.
I think I might literally do that.
Be gracious to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. Christina?
All right. So something that went well was that after the last planning party, I wanted to systematize my client intake process, and I actually got that done and got it all automated, and it's like already saved hours. So
What?
I'm especially doing
Wow.
it in November. So yeah.
That's a huge win.
It was huge. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So good. And Gleneth and Debbie, if you guys have something that you want to add in the chat, feel free to do that and I'll read it. So awesome. Such a big win. All right, Kiana?
At the project planning party, I was able to do some time blocking for my 2 businesses and for spending time with my mother and with myself. So that was really nice. So that's something I am not very good at, and I really like chunked it all out because I had the time to do it, and I was happy with that.
Awesome. Love it. Susan?
One of the things I noticed, I have all of these projects going on, so I've been in a state of overwhelm for a while. And a couple of weeks ago, I took myself out of my house and went to the library for X amount of hours. And I realized, like a lightning bolt, I should have realized it before, that to have 4 hours, 5 hours away from home, no phone calls, I was really able to dig in and really just get things organized so that I can continue. So I think I'm going to do that. I'll see if I can do it once a week. But I think that time, just like the planning parties, to really kind of take myself out, because even if I'm in the house, my mind just keeps, like, I'll look at something, I have to get that done, or so to put myself.
The distractions are still there.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Debbie says that she loves doing that, and Christina mentioned working outside the house is such a help for focusing. Yeah, I need to try it. I can't do coffee shops. I'm way too distracted. Like, that's my problem, is like my office, there's actually not much in my office. So I'm sitting at my desk. There's not many things that distract me, but coffee shops, like, I can't do them. But maybe the library I could do. I should try that in November on a day I have the car or something. Yeah, it's a great idea. All right, so let's move on to reviewing our priorities. So by this point, for a lot of you, you should have your stuff like easy to grab and top of mind, but your vision and focus for 2018, or just the quarter, if you've adjusted that, And so the worksheet gives you the option for your vision for the year, word for the year, goals and priority for the year. So let's just do that little piece. I'll just give you like 1 minute because that's a pretty quick one at this point. I think you guys are all fairly clear on what you're doing. Oh, and I have to mention this because Gleneth just said she's the opposite. She just came from Starbucks and she forgets that there's other people there. That's incredible. I wish I could focus that well out in public, but like I just can't. I'm so like I am the one that faces away from the entrance in a restaurant when my husband and I go out to eat, or like with my back to the TV. It's not like usually like the guys do that so they're not distracted. But no, I have to sit that way. Like it's really bad. Anyway, okay. Minute starts now. All right. Was that a good refocusing for everybody of like, okay, this is what I was said was important this year and this quarter. Also, anyone else listening to Christmas music while they plan, or am I the only one? I was like, I have a lot of options. I'm like, I want to listen to, so I'm listening to my Christmas jazz playlist. Anyway, just confessions of a Christmas lover. I'm like, we're planning November. November for me signifies Christmas is coming. Anyway, okay. So now that you guys have got kind of like you've reminded yourself your word for the year and your priorities, I want you to pick your 3 priorities that you're going to focus on this month. Out of all the things that you could possibly do, what are the top 3 things that you want to make progress on and focus on during the month of November? All right. Go. You guys, I almost unmuted myself before I turned my Christmas music off. I was like, oh, they probably don't want to hear that right now. Also, Kate, can I ask you, where are you and what is that beautiful art behind you?
I'm at my parents' house in Richmond Hill. And this is a super old Dutch painting from Holland.
Cool. I was just like, I couldn't tell. I'm like, it kind of looks like she's in like a library or like a really cool coffee shop with like vintage art. I'm like, I don't know. I need to ask. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
For satisfying my
my doctor is near here. So
Ah,
I thought I might need to see them later today. So and I'm still not driving yet. So
yeah. Cool. Anyway, thank you for sharing. I was like, where is she? All right. So everyone's got their top 3 for the month. I want you to put them in the chat, what your top 3 are, mainly for accountability. Guys, I almost tried to make a 4th. This is why it's accountability. So I chose romantic because my husband and I need to spend time together and we need a date out of the house. And then I chose holidays because I need to start like prepping because I know that like with everything going on, it can sneak up really fast. So November, my goal is to like get really organized with like gifts, start doing my Christmas baking. Like I'd like to have all that done by the end of November. That's my goal. And then for quality, I was like, okay, it's about set, vision, plan, change. And then I was like, but it's also about a successful launch. I'm like, nope, it's about set, vision, plan, change. So that's why it's really important to get down to 3 things. So if you guys want to put your 3 things in the chat. And then if you're watching the replay, don't feel like you need to put your things in the chat. But if you want to share a summary of your planning party in the Facebook group, feel free to do that. All right, Kiana, social media pins, book auditions, book website update. Love it. Love it. Nice and simple. Okay, so once you guys have these 3 things, we've got our 4 approaches. And this is what's not in the worksheet because we've only been doing this the last couple months. But there's 4 approaches to planning, and I'll put these in the chat for you guys. And we're just going to review them. So there's 4 different ways to look at and plan things that you want to make a priority or make happen. The first one is to have like a project plan. So this is where you have something that's a little bit bigger, that's got a bigger timeline, that's going to have phases, and like you want to actually create like a bigger project plan. And we'll go into that a little bit more and plan one of those bigger projects. Then there's the next step. So sometimes people find it really overwhelming to have like a big, huge project plan. Sometimes it's like, just what's the next thing that I can do? What's the next thing for this? And sometimes that next step approach of like, hey, well, I did that. What's the next step now? Okay, I did that. What's the next step? And sometimes that's a better way to break it down because it's a little bit less overwhelming in terms of you don't have the list of 45 things you need to do. You just are working on the next, and you only have to think about one thing at a time. Because sometimes if we create massive project plans, our brain is like, gets overwhelmed with seeing all of this stuff, but then it can also get distracted and want to like skip ahead and do these other things when like this is what needs to happen next. So sometimes that approach works for people. Okay. The third one is the daily habit. So if there's something that you know you need to work on, for instance, Christina's moving in 2 weeks. She's probably going to have a daily habit for the next 2 weeks of packing. Like, even if it's one box, she's going to pack at least one box every week or have some kind of daily habit. Maybe it's 30 minutes of packing or 60 minutes of packing or whatever that looks like. But that's an example of like a daily habit. However, packing the house might also have a bit of a project plan to it. Like that might be an important thing to sit down and actually go, okay, well, what parts of the house should we be packing first because we need things? Or what is the stuff we're packing last? Okay, when are we hiring a truck or doing whatever, whoever's taking care of moving stuff, like there's those pieces. So that might actually be a little bit of a mini project plan, but then there's a daily habit tied to it so that there's action taken every day. Okay, so that's an example how two of these planning approaches can work really well together. And then the fourth planning approach is a weekly action. So a lot of times we've got like habits we want to develop, but they don't need to be daily. I don't need a daily habit of going out and leaving the house for a date, but that could be a weekly action that I need to take, right? Or at least having that quality time. That maybe doesn't happen every single day, but as long as it's happening multiple times a week and I'm able to have conversation, then we're okay. It's as soon as we've got things that we say are important to us that are not happening at all during a week, that's when we know that something needs to change. Because, so for instance, now Kate with health, like sleeping 8 hours, that's a daily habit, right? I think we can all see that. But and relationship quality time. So that's an example of something where it's like that might only happen a couple times a week, but if there goes a whole week without any of that, you know that there's a problem, right? Or that area needs to be addressed. So that's an example for you guys. So now what we're going to do is take a couple minutes and those 3 things that you guys talked about, which I love it. You guys have finishing renos, wrapping up client work, establishing a routine, website launch, date night. Yeah, another date nighter. Website rework, finish office declutter, get the Mac and printer working. Love it. Some super simple things. So what I'd like for you guys to do is just take 2 minutes and for each of those 3 things, pick the planning approach that's going to work best for you. And really look at it and go, okay, how can I use these different planning approaches? And so if you think you can use more than one, then write that out and be like, you know what, this could be something I could do daily and it's something I want to have as a weekly thing. Or this needs to be a project plan, but I also want to have a daily habit tied to this project. So think about that for all 3 of your things and kind of break that down a little bit. And I'm going to give you just 2 minutes to kind of go through and think about how you're going to plan those things, and then we'll pop back. All right. Sorry, Debbie, I didn't see the comment because it was attached to the bottom of your other one. The first one was the big project plan. So that was the first one. So project plan, next step, daily habit, or weekly action. So I apologize about missing that. All right. So with your 3 priorities for the month, do you guys feel confident that you've got a plan on how you're going to like put those into place? Yeah, you've got some good ideas. So what I would love for you to do, either do it this way. The most important one that's deadline driven, like the absolutely most important of those 3, or the one that is the biggest project. So the one that needs the project plan. Because basically what I want you to do now is take either the most important or the biggest project, and we're going to spend time planning that one out fully. Okay, so you're going to get like 6-7 minutes to really like dive in and plan that one all out. So when you know which one you're doing, put it in the chat. And then, and it doesn't have to be, I guess it doesn't have to be the biggest one if there's one that's most important, or it can be the biggest one, but it's maybe not the most important. You just need the most time to plan it, because another one might be, your most important one might be a daily habit. And so it's an easier one for you to work in and plan. You just have to add something into your calendar every day. All right. So Susan's going to focus on her website launch prep. Awesome. So good. Christina, finishing renovations. Yeah, I guess if you've got renovations to finish before you move, are you hiring movers? No, you're not hiring movers. How are you moving? You don't know yet? I guess this is the day after you found out.
Yeah, we just found out.
So crazy. So crazy. All right. Kiana is doing a social media project with a weekly plan. Love it. All right. So let's see how much time. I'm going to give you guys like 7 minutes. Let's like really make a good plan for that biggest thing. All right. 7 minutes starts now. I will try to check a bit more frequently in the comments if you guys have questions while we're going. Sorry about that, Debbie. All right, so how's everybody doing with their project? That was actually 7 minutes. I was like, the timer went, I was like, no way. How are you guys feeling about that biggest thing? Is there anything you guys want to talk about? Ask questions. There's lots of people on live today. Like, I feel like if you're stuck on something or you've like need an idea, this is a great time to ask. So does anybody have something that they would like to ask or question or anything?
I have a question. So if you feel like everything's been all over the place and you're just trying to do like a high level, like I ended up just kind of like trying to overall go over stuff. Is there any way that you, like if you've had to kind of put the brakes on life in general for a while and then you're getting back into it, any way you kind of recommend getting back into planning without having a small anxiety attack?
Yeah, I mean, I would just keep things really low key and plan less than you think you're going to be able to do. So if you're like, hey, this is me scaled back, this is my scaled back plan, then still like pick one thing that you can still take out of that. And like adjust what things look like, because things look different in every season. So, yeah, it's tough, but you just have to really like know that this is what your goal is, and you have to check in regularly with yourself. So after a week, look at it and go, how did that week feel? You know what? It felt too much. Okay, so for this next week, what can I take out so that my plan isn't too overwhelming? And I would just like check in with yourself all the time. That's the biggest thing for me. Like, or like after M was born, like I'd purposefully like built in more like extra space, but then I was like, okay, I need more. Or then I was like, no, I can do more now. Okay, cool. But you'll only know that by trying what you think you can do. And then if you're like, yeah, I think I can handle something else, then, but add and subtract by like one thing, not like adding 3 things back in because you think that you can handle it. Yeah. Thanks. Anyone else have advice on that? If you've been through a season like that? No, that's all right. Debbie said, haha, my project got larger as I went. I kept adding more parts to it, all related, but bigger. So here's the thing. It is so easy for like project creep, right? Like, or scope creep. That's like a real thing. So what you need to acknowledge as your projects get bigger is like, for instance, Debbie's, one of her projects was like website rework. So I don't know if that's the one that kept getting bigger, but like a website update is a lot. And that's probably for most of us more than what we can get done in a month because we've got our regular stuff. Remember, you still have your maintenance tasks, right? Like you've still got this ongoing stuff, your client work, your classes, your family, your home, your whatever that looks like. And so this is in addition to that. And so just remember that. And so as you're projects getting bigger, understand and be okay with needing to move your deadline if that's what you need to do. And maybe you're like, hey, I thought I could do this whole project this month, but I'm going to pick this half of the project and then do the other half of the project next month. That's one way to look at it. Another way is to say, okay, I have to get this done. This is my deadline. So for me, I have a hard deadline. Like on December 5th, or I guess the 3rd, I open registration for annual. Well, we are creating a whole new membership platform, an e-commerce site for registration. That's a hard deadline. So for us, it's the deadline has to stay the same, but what do we not have to include? Like how can it be more basic this time? And we keep updating for the next time. You know what I mean? So sometimes you might need to think about moving your deadline. And sometimes if your project scope just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you might want to think about what are the things you can remove from that project so that you can get it done. So take out the things that aren't really necessary, but we tell ourselves, oh, I have to do this and this and this. Do you really? Do you really? Or can you take that out? You know, like even an example with like wrapping up client work, right? Christina, like this is a big move. It's pretty sudden. What can you do to wrap things up as quickly as possible or let your clients know you need to take 2 to 3 weeks off and find out what they're able to push off. Like, I actually don't even think I know what you do with your clients. I don't, so I can't give you an example. Could you share with us?
I'm a web developer.
Oh, web developer. Well, speaking of websites, ladies. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, you do WordPress?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I was like, the pieces, sometimes the faces and the names and the Instagram handles all are like separate people in my head. And then I have to realize I have to combine them. This is all one person. Okay. So I don't necessarily know what it is that you could do, but think about, is there something that you can do where you can get the basics met for these clients and then finish things up after you move or whatever. Like just sometimes we have to get creative with it, right? With deadlines. So yeah, Debbie said it wasn't the website. Okay, well, there we go. I went on and on about a website and that's what it wasn't what it was. But it's the paint. Oh, need to look forward to paintings to do in upcoming shows. Which paintings? Oh, that's so interesting. I never thought about that being a whole piece of the process, but record keeping for which paintings go to which shows, which paintings you can use. And I do have a lot of time because we've cut so much out. Yeah. So it's helpful when you've already cut things. But yeah, project creep or scope creep, I guess is usually what it's called. But like scope creep is a thing. And it happens a lot with clients. Like I'm sure, Christina, you experience this all the time. Your client says, okay, I want this from you. And then they're like, oh, can you do this and this and this and this and this? And soon enough, like 2 weeks later, they've asked for like 5 or 6 other things. So that's usually when we refer to scope creep, is when clients keep making things more, but we can scope creep on ourselves and be like, oh, well, I have to have this and this and this and this. And I've got to have everything ready for Instagram and I have to do Pinterest at the same time. It's like, no, girl, back it up. Pause it. Only do what you absolutely have to do. You know, Kiana, there are only 2 things that are so time consuming. I need to figure out how to shorten those or work on them during the weekend. Yeah. And so it's just like learning and realizing, okay, there's some things I need to do and some changes. And you know what, Susan, it's okay if you extend your launch. Or here's the other reminder. Maybe instead of extending your launch, you only launch with 2 pages on your website. You can still launch, but not with everything. Like if you could only have 3 pages, maybe, what are the most important 3 pages for you to have to launch with? Everything else is extra. Do you know how long I've wanted to have a speaking page on my website? Almost a year. I don't have one yet. And I still get asked to speak. So, you know, it's like sometimes it's just the measuring. Right now, I'm not saying like that's the best approach and like just half-ass your website and like don't worry about it, you know, like never finish projects. That's not what I believe, but I do think there's a time and a place for everything. And for me in this season, I've said the quarterly and serving this amazing group of women, this is my priority. The other things, we'll get to them when we get to them. But you know, like we all have to pick and choose. So anyway, that's just some things to think about. So for this project and like the bigger thing that you guys were planning, do you want more time to keep planning that? Or do you want to start putting that in your schedule? What do you guys think? Feel free to unmute yourself and let me know. Scheduling is good. You guys feel like you got a pretty good handle on the planning. And if you didn't quite finish the planning, then just go ahead and finish that for the first like minute or two and then go on. Okay, so that's what we'll do then. So we're going to move to the scheduling piece of it. So with this one big kind of project or task that you were just planning, let's create a timeline. So give yourself some actual timelines and deadlines. And it's 2-part, and sometimes it's better for people to separate this, and sometimes it's better to do it together. So either you can create your timeline and look at deadlines, all of it, and then put it in your calendar, or feel free to just do it simultaneously, like as you're going, and then put it into your schedule. Because the other thing that you need to do is actually figure out when you're going to work on this. Okay, so I said I want to do this every week, but where in my calendar is it going? Right? So those are some of the things. So let's just spend some time. I'm going to give you guys a good period of time. I'm going to give you another 7 minutes, okay? And let's schedule out that big project, and then we'll come back. You guys, that was 7 minutes. I didn't even get to scheduling. I'm still working out my big project plan. It has a lot of pieces. I wasn't expecting it to be so big. How are you guys doing with the scheduling piece? Like, so for instance, right now, I'm feeling like, okay, this is a really massive project. This is probably the only thing I can handle this month, and it really needs to happen. Okay, good to know. So anything else I was planning on doing this month, I'm saying no to. That's how I'm feeling right now, and I don't even have it in my calendar. I do know, though, that I need to open my calendar and like give myself like 2 hours every day, or like an hour every day to work on this. So I will continue after, but I usually don't get I don't get everything done on this call usually anyway. I always have to do a follow-up, but partially because I'm paying attention to the chat and stuff. But you guys are just like firing through stuff today. Kiana says scheduling task, but just started my calendar. Sounds good, like actually putting things in. So what I want you to do though right now is, if you haven't yet put anything for this big thing into your calendar, let's take a couple minutes and do that, because I think that's really important. So for instance, I'm going to go in and look at all of my work days, and like I think I'm just going to start my work day every day with working on this project, but it's going to be weighted more heavily to the front end, I think, because the back end other people can help me with. So like that's an example. So I'm going to go through. So let's make sure you've got this in your calendar. So open up your calendar and put this big project in. I'll just give us a couple minutes, and then we'll look at our other priorities for the month. So let's do that first. All right. So I have to be honest, guys. The timer went, and the 3 of you that are on video are like head down working so hard. I was like, I'm just going to let them keep going for a few more minutes, because I was like, they're being productive, whatever they're doing. So I'm just not going to interrupt their flow. So I would love for you guys to jump on, for those of you that are on video. Just unmute yourself and give us like a 30-second update on how you're feeling about this big project and where you're at with things. You're all like, there you go. Go, Kiana.
I'm worried that I'm not giving myself enough time. I don't know, because I've never done before. So I'm trying to like 2x it, but it looks like way too much time. So I'm just lost.
Don't worry about that though, because here's the thing. If after your first week or two, you're like, oh, I'm getting this done faster, then perfect. But like, give yourself that time, because if you've never really done this task before, it is going to take longer than you think. I love that you're starting with the 2x thing. Just be like, you know what? I'm just going to go with it. And if you finish 30 minutes early one week, or you've got an extra 15 minutes or hour or whatever, like then you can use it doing something else or getting ahead. But like, don't feel like, yeah, you're way better off giving yourself more time than giving yourself this much time and then be freaking out about it.
Okay.
So you're good. You're good. Christina?
I am super relieved, actually. Because after I put everything down for the renovations, I did what you just mentioned and cut it back to like the bare minimum that would need to happen. And then I combined it with a daily habit, and I totally think we can get it done in 2 or 3 hours a day. So that's doable.
That's awesome. And my next question though is, do you have 2 or 3 hours a day to put towards it?
Yes.
Okay. Because that's right. It's like, okay, yeah, I can get this done if I've got 2 or 3 hours a day, but do you? That's the important question to ask, right? So that's awesome that you're able to like fit your other things into that so that you're able to put that much time towards it. I'm glad you feel relieved. People either feel relieved or they feel really overwhelmed when they start documenting everything. And so, yeah, I'm glad. All right, Susan.
Well, I have a lot of items blocked out. Some depend on other people, so I'll have to see how that goes. But I think if I can get a lot of these chunks done, I still may have to delay, but I don't feel bad about it now.
Yay! That's a huge win. I love that. I'm so happy.
It's hard, but it's there's only so much of me to go around, and and I think if I didn't have all of these home projects hanging, looming, people coming in and out, I think that I would have gotten a lot more done September, October, and I wouldn't be here. So, but there's nothing I can do about that. So
yeah, those things still need to happen, right? And so that's just learning. It's like there's priorities, and if we've got to focus and shift our attention and be okay with a little bit less in both of those areas or until we can get stuff done. Yeah. That's so awesome. For those of you that aren't using video today and you're just in the chat, if you want to give us an update, feel free to do that. Okay. So what I would love for us to do now is we're just going to take a couple minutes, and those other 2 priorities for your month, the ones that we kind of briefly looked at the beginning, I want you to go in and make sure those are in your calendar for November. So figure out, is this a daily thing? Is this a weekly thing? What does this look like? I'll just give you we'll just take 2 minutes just to make sure that those things that we said are important are showing up in our calendar. All right. Was that helpful for everybody? Those other 2 things are now somewhere in that calendar. Even for me, my first step, just to give you guys an example of what this can sometimes look like. For me, for say holiday stuff, I didn't put anything in my calendar, but what I did is in my calendar on this weekend, I have to have a conversation with Joseph about what nights we're going to do this and make the decision. I don't want to put something in my calendar if it's not actually what's going to work for both of us. And so I have our current evening themes all typed out in our agenda for things to discuss on the weekend. I've got that typed out, and I'm like, this is what I am proposing, that this is the night a week we spend on holidays. Does this still work? And can we move our things ahead if we're focusing on one night a week doing this? And so we'll have that conversation, and then I'll update the calendar. So that's an example how sometimes we're not necessarily putting it straight in our calendar because it's a discussion that needs to be had with somebody else. So just thought I'd share that with you guys because it's not always so cut and dry. All right, now what we're going to do, excuse me, is spend about 5 minutes, and we are going to go chronologically through our month. So starting, if you guys want to start with today and then continue into November, or if you feel good about the next week and you want to just start on November 1st. So what we do during this time is we're looking for, are there events we haven't RSVP'd to? Is there something missing on one calendar that's not on the other? This is a really good time to sync and make sure you're looking at your phone and your hard copy or your digital or whatever it is. Are there events that you need to take things to that you can add to a list of oh, I need to take this and I need to do that. Or we want to get this renovation done on this day, which means this day I need to get these errands for all the stuff for the weekend. Thinking through some of that timeline stuff, even if it's project specific, putting it in. For all the moms, when do you need a babysitter? These are just things that as you go through the month, you can be thinking about. And so literally just go through chronologically. And let's start a 5-minute and see how far we get after 5 minutes. All right, everybody. How did we do? How are we going with our calendar? I have to be honest, I started at November 1st and then I got so sidetracked. I was like, oh, we usually get together with these people in December and these people in December. And part of my November is like making sure all of like our holiday plans are booked. And I was like, shoot. So I started like making a list of all the people. I'm like, we need to start booking some of these things for like November and December. And so I got a little bit off on a bunny trail. So I made it to, see, where did I make it to? Oh, I made it to the 14th. So not too bad, like halfway through the month, even with that bunny trail. So how did you guys do? Feel free to unmute yourself too. Like I'll stick us all back on gallery as we wrap up our call today.
I think for me, I am going to start booking a scheduled library time every week. And I'm going to start November planning starting today through the 31st, and then be able to launch. So I'll have a much more detailed project plan for the website and for home, and then I can then just jump off.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the weeks or like the months where like your weeks, what am I trying to say? Sometimes the months connect in the middle of a week. So October to November, the first 3 days, it's like 29th, 30th, 31st, and then Thursday and Friday is when November starts. So just an example, I gave October 5 weeks, and then I consider when I'm planning November, I consider November 5th to be the first, like, and then I have 4 weeks of November, at least when I'm planning like business projects. So I always do a full week because I work Monday to Wednesday. And so I don't work Thursday, Friday anyway. So like those days aren't like there. So just, you can also think about that too, right? If you've got like, you want it to be due the end of October, but like, well, maybe having it due November 2nd on the Friday at the end of that work week is okay. Like don't feel like just because it's a month thing, you have to be like, it's okay to be flexible and like make that look like whatever you need, Does that help anybody? Hopefully. Just as a different perspective. But anybody else, any thoughts? Because guys, we're done. We planned our month. So, I mean, if you still have a bit of a project plan that you need to finish up or some things to put in your calendar, make sure that you open up your calendar and put that in like right now or as soon as the call is done so that you don't end up leaving it. And then you're like 3 or 4 days later, you're like, shoot, I'm supposed to be working on this tomorrow. I don't even know what I'm doing yet. Right? Like that's not always the best feeling in the world. Kiana, you've unmuted yourself. Do you have something?
With the time blocking that I set up at the project party, it was really easy to put the tasks for these projects into those time blocks, like where they go. So that really worked out well. I'm going to try to do that from now on and forever.
Yeah, that's so good. It's great when the things start to complement each other and click. And it's different all the time, right? Like I've gone through phases where like what I'm doing looks a little bit different than it used to because of the season I'm in, Yeah. Christina?
Yeah, I think I'm going to start time blocking too. I've never actually tried it before, but when Kiana mentioned it, I was like, oh, that would work because if I had 2 hours for packing and then 3 hours for renovating, I could just block everything for those each day up to the move. So that would help.
Yeah, it's a super easy way to say like, I don't necessarily know exactly what things I'm going to be working on, but like next week I have a 3-hour block and then a 2-hour block to work on my set vision plan change course. And then I have my project plan in Trello, which says these are the things I need to do in this order. So I will just work on those things until in that time, right? And so sometimes it's easier just to put those tasks right in the calendar. I keep everything in Trello just because that keeps me really organized. But I tell myself in my calendar, this is the project you're working on. And then I go into Trello and I say, okay, so I have 3 hours. What am I doing? Right. And then you can focus on that. So yeah, awesome. Well, ladies, this was such a good call. Our 90 minutes is over. And so I do want to let you go and be aware of the time. But thank you so much for those of you that showed up live video talking. This is what I love about the planning party, the monthly ones when it's just us, is that we get to like talk like this. And for those of you that were hiding in the chat, not hiding in the chat, but we're in the chat. We didn't get to see your face, but Debbie and Gleneth, it was great to have you. And Kate, we hope you keep recovering well. And that's it, you guys. Reach out in the Facebook group if you have questions. I'll send the replay out by the end of today, which doesn't affect you guys because you were just on the call. But for those of you watching the replay now, you know, I don't know. That doesn't matter. Anyway, bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.